Are your lectures boring? Do they carry on for hours and leave you just as confused as when you walked in? It has been found that students in a more traditional lecture setting are 1.5 times more likely to fail than students in a more stimulating environment. Hands-on learning, or learning through experience, is one way to engage students. We call the process of making meaning from direct experience experiential learning. Let's take a closer look at what experiential learning is all about. You begin with an action or activity that you would like to complete. Then, you review to develop your understanding of what needs to be done. If you identify positives, you can continue with confidence to finish your activity. If you identify negatives, you have to then develop ideas to improve and overcome these challenges. Then, you select and apply these improvements to complete your action or activity. Optimal learning occurs when students stay engaged throughout the whole process. Not enough challenge may result in boredom, and too much challenge may result in frustration. If the student cannot see the reason behind the project or do not see why they are involved, they may not learn anything at all. The design of the learning experience includes the possibility to learn from natural consequences, mistakes, and successes. The student must identify the positive and negative consequences that may occur. Negative consequences are identified. Try and change your mindset. See the positive side, the potential, and decide to make an effort. Oftentimes, a change in mindset can help transform negative consequences into positive ones. Learning by doing. Here, the participants have a good time making their own meaning out of their experience, and any learning is just left to chance. Learning from the process is the heart of experiential learning. By receiving little to no help from the instructor, the student will learn from the experience rather than being told what they should be learning. Learning by telling. Here, the facilitator or teacher tells the students what they have learned and what they can improve. This approach fails to give students real ownership of their experience and learning. Learning by telling. In most schools, memorization is mistaken for learning. Most of what is remembered is only remembered for a short time and then is quickly forgotten. It is also common for students to zone out during these periods of lecture and not actually understand the reason why they are learning what they are. Learning through reflection. Here, participants reflect on their experience and through guidance from carefully designed questions, bring up points and issues for open discussion in the group. Experiences are structured so students take initiative, make decisions, and are accountable for results. Opportunities are nurtured for students to explore and examine their own values. Direction with reflection. Key learning points are given before the experience occurs, guiding participants in the direction of important issues. The debrief process at the end simply looks at the success or failure of these key points. Learning outdoors can lead to the formation of groups in the following stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. The group you are surrounded by can help facilitate the maximum amount of learning when you're in the outdoors.
Learning outside is typically better than inside because when you're stuck in a classroom all day listening to just one person talk, it gets really boring and you tend to lose interest. But when you're outdoors and in more remote locations, there's not as many distractions and you're really learning for yourself, not for other people just giving you information. So you actually take it in a lot better and learn more.
So I felt a real sense of accomplishment because back in the classroom before we did any of the trips I had no idea what it would be like, And then, so we started the day strong, and then all encouraged each other. And then when we got to the waterfall at the bottom, I was kind of worried about how far we still had to come back up, and I didn't know whether I'd actually be able to do it, but I did, and now I'm feeling great.
So you really can't learn about things like this, like nature, like this crazy view, with just reading about it. I feel like the second you see it, everything makes sense, and before it, like, you can understand it, but you can't fully understand it. So if anybody wants to really know about the art, or to be involved in the outdoors, or understand the outdoors, you have to be a part of it, and being a part of it changes your total view.
We have been dealing with risk since the beginning of time. Our positive embracing risk is the risk of gain. It is to engage in risk for growth. Our negative adverse risk is minimizing the risk of loss, such as insurance. Recently, there's been a shift towards our negative risk, as there has been more evidence of the dangers of risk and less of the benefits. Allowing students to make mistakes may lead to a situation in which more information is retained because of the more challenging learning process. In experiential learning, the student manages their own learning, rather than being told what to do and when to do it. The relationship between student and instructor is different, with the instructor passing much of the responsibility onto the student and challenging them to learn in their own unique way. By incorporating the right amount of risk, students can use the support from their instructors to maximize their growth throughout the course. Embracing challenges leads to students facing their fears, moving through them, and becoming temporarily uncomfortable for the sake of personal growth and development. This kind of growth and development cannot occur in a classroom setting because the level of challenge and risk is much lower than when learning outdoors.
I really enjoyed the first day of the Blue Mountains trip. I got to be the leader for the hike, and I really like that because in a classroom setting I don't really get the opportunity to take initiative with the teacher always talking, and it was nice to be able to lead the group and see what everyone else was doing and how they interact during the hike. And then one of the things that I really enjoyed was the cave crawl. It was really cool to challenge yourself to go through small spaces even if you don't like it, and to see our entire group go through, even if people didn't want to do it, they were pushed to do it, and everyone really enjoyed it afterwards, so that was fun.
Oh wow, score! Look at this. This is an aspen. You can tell that it's an aspen tree because of the way it is. Wow.
Although we can simulate the real world in the classroom and laboratory, authentic experiential learning creates an invaluable opportunity to prepare students for a profession or career, learn the craft of a fine artist, or discover how the discipline creates evidence to contribute to its body of knowledge. Thus, we argue that the mission for higher education should be to bridge the gap between theory and practice, suggesting that to do this, the educational environment needs to intentionally create rich connections between the formal and experiential curriculums.